Hi, I'm Thea. I'm so excited for this video. We are going to paint together today. So welcome to my studio. This is the painting I decided we should paint together today. I decided on the pomegranates because it is quite easy to start with. So even if you don't have a lot of experience and you're just starting out painting, you will be able to keep up. And I am a sucker for anything red in a painting, so this is why I chose this picture. I have included the reference picture that I used as well as a photo of this painting in the description box below, so you can use that to help you when painting. If you haven't seen my video on how to prep your canvas, what brushes to use and how to draw your picture, I would suggest that you watch that first before painting with me, as it will just help you with some background information on how I paint. So the next thing that we will be discussing is what you will need to paint this painting, and just to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and click on the notification bell if you haven't done so already. So let's get started. For this painting you will need a 20 by 20 centimeter canvas, a ruler and a pencil to draw your picture with. You'll need some oil paints. Then I used 3 brushes to paint this painting. The biggest brush would be approximately 1 centimeter if you take the width, and then a 1/2 centimeter, and then just a small one for some fine details. You can have some paper towel nearby to just wipe off your brushes, and turpentine to wash it with or clean your brushes. And then I also used a palette knife, so if you have one and are comfortable using it, you are welcome, or try it if you haven't before. Otherwise, if you really don't want, you can just skip that step. So let's start painting. I'm using guidelines on my reference picture to help me draw the picture. So now I'm just copying the lines on my canvas using my ruler and my pencil. Once you have your blocks, start by focusing on one block at a time and draw the outlines. When you have completed all of the outlines, you can draw some detail. For the detail, I only draw the red shapes for the broken fruit, and try to focus on seeing shapes rather than thinking of the fruit itself. You can use the biggest brush of the 3 brushes to start off with and use it to paint your background. I start with burnt umber and the paint's grey. I mix it by taking both on my brush and then just starting to paint underneath the fruit. So the dark colors will kind of form the shading and the shadows of the fruit. And then I take some of the white and a little bit of the yellow to put into the corners. You can use the same brush and not wash it every time you want to take a new color. If you have a dark color on your brush and you want to go on with a light color but there's still too much paint, you can just wipe it off on your paper towel. Otherwise, I like to go on with my brush and not clean it every time, and because it helps to blend in some of the other colors. So when I take white after I just painted brown, it gives a nice blending of the colors, and I don't wash my brush every time. You can play around with the burnt umber and the paints grow all around the fruit at the bottom, and then as you go lower down, add a little bit of white, add a little bit of yellow. You can even add a little bit of burnt sienna to just let the colors flow from dark to light. At the top of the painting, I paint with white and a little bit of yellow as well. The brown that is already on my brush will help to bring in a bit darker color. So if you see there's not enough brown, you can add a little bit more. When you paint, don't only paint in one direction. Twist your hand and go a bit up and down and a bit to the side. This helps just to create a bit more texture and makes the painting feel more alive. I will now use my palette knife to bring in some texture. I mix the paint with Zalkin. It is a product that thins the paint and it helps to make the paint more see-through and easier to apply. Do not put a lot of paint on your knife, and when you use it, don't press too hard when you apply it. Softly make soft strokes and also in different directions. And if you feel at the end you did too much, don't worry, you can just go over it with your brush again. You'll see just now when I'm done with the palette knife, I'm also going to just go over it with a brush a little bit to soften out some of the texture. I use the white mixture to put on the top where it's lighter, and then where the light and the brown starts to meet, I will put some of the burnt umber that is also thinned out a bit. and then at the bottom I will use the paints gray. So you take the same colors as on the painting already, so you're just adding texture, you're not really changing the color. I often doubt my background, so when I feel like this, I'd rather just carry on with the foreground. You can always return to the background when you are done, but believe me, most of the time I never go back, as the focus is so much more on the foreground than on the background. So when you only have the background to look at, you are very critical, but then once you paint the foreground, your eye don't really go to the background, it just blends in. So if you are doubting, rather go to the foreground and leave the background a bit, and then at the end you can always go back. You can use the smaller brush now, and we're going to start by painting the red. I use cadmium red deep for the fruit, and I focus on one fruit at a time and finish that one before I move on to the next one. When I start to paint with the red, I mix in some of the brown from the start where I know it's or where I see it's going to be a bit darker, rather than just painting the whole fruit red in one color. So this just gives a deeper, richer color that I'm going to paint in anyway. So I just start off with it from the beginning. Once I've applied the red to the whole fruit, I will start by putting in more brown shading, and all the places that's a bit darker, I'll just put in some burnt umber and just blend it in by just rubbing over it the whole time, and remember to go in different directions. For the lighter shading, I mix my white with yellow. It just prevents it the fruit to become too pink. Otherwise, it mixes with the red and it really becomes pink. So the yellow helps to get a nice lighter shade. When you apply your lighter shading, do not put too much paint on your brush, and once you applied your white or your lighter shade, go back and get another bit of red and burnt umber, and very softly just blend in the lines where the light and the dark meet. With Payne's Grey and Burnt Umber, I'm now putting in the darkest colors, so at the top of the fruit and also some of the cracks I will do in Payne's Grey. Mix in a bit more red for the top part of the fruit, and then just take a bit of yellow and almost paste it using the thin side of the brush to create a bit of texture for the final details. Do the same with the white, and take the small piece of the small part of your brush and just tip and small brush strokes very lightly and paste some of the white for some lighter textures on the fruit as well. According to my reference picture, the fruit in the back has a yellowish brown color, but I want to change it to red. I think it will just look nicer. So I'm applying the same principle as the first fruit we painted, painting the whole fruit red and adding brown as I'm going along. I leave the crown of the fruit white as I want to be able to see the lines. Paint the lines in burnt umber so that you don't lose those lines, and then add more brown shading with soft brush strokes. I then add my lighter shades with white and yellow, and I'm using my lighter shade to paint the crown as well. And then blend the red into the lighter crown. Take white and a bit of yellow to paint the inside parts of the fruit. Bring in some brown for the darker shading and then add the red shapes. You can also use a smaller brush if you would prefer. And then with small brush strokes, I'm once again pasting the paint. Add some more yellow shading if you feel the need and paint the lighter shades on the red pieces. You can finish off with some final dark shades. For the last fruit, I'm painting a thin red line at the bottom and then painting the red shapes. I'm adding burnt umber in the darker parts and a bit of Payne's grey for the darkest parts. Remember to wash your brush before doing the lighter parts of the fruit, otherwise the lighter color will become pink. I am painting with white and yellow for the lighter pieces. I'm now using my small brush. Add burnt umber and a touch of burnt sienna for the darker shading. Do not put too much paint on your brush. And once again, try to look for the darker shapes on the reference picture. When you think in shapes, it feels less overwhelming. Very softly apply the brush strokes and do not blend the paint too much, otherwise the darker color will blend and almost disappear into the white. I am now painting the lighter shades on the red. Mix white and yellow with a touch of red, and always remember to copy the same shapes as on the reference picture. This will help make your painting look more realistic. You also have to put in a few final darker shades on the red. Do this by using the dark brown and pasting the paint without stroking too much. Remember to wash your brush with turpentine, and afterwards you can rub a bit of liquid soap on the brush's hair and rub it a bit and rinse it under water. I've just found that it prevents the brush to get hard. Thank you so much for painting with me. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And please send me some feedback and some pictures of your painting. I would love to see them.